The story of ILLIT, the rookie group that debuted in March 2024 with the massive viral hit Magnetic, is often told as a fairy tale. Perfect all kills, Billboard entries, record-breaking streams, a dream start. But behind those pristine numbers lies a much grittier, more controversial reality. A baptism by fire that began just weeks after their debut and threatened to define them before they could define themselves. This isn't just a story of success. It's a story of survival in the hyper-competitive, scandal-fueled world of Kpop, where public perception can be shattered in a single Instagram post. The storm clouds gathered in April 2024, barely a month into ILLIT's career. Min Hee-jin, the powerful and outspoken CEO of ADOR, the label managing the superstar group NewJeans, leveled a bombshell public accusation against BELIFT LAB, ILLIT's agency. She claimed in no uncertain terms that BELIFT LAB and its parent company HYBE were systematically copying NewJeans' core identity and funneling it into ILLIT. This wasn't a vague hint from industry insiders. This was a direct public call-out from one of the most influential creative directors in the business. The internet, of course, exploded. Overnight, the narrative around ILLIT shifted from promising new group to corporate copycat project. Every piece of content they had ever released was put under a forensic microscope. Netizens and media outlets began side-by-side comparisons that spread like wildfire. ILLIT's minimalist Y2K-inspired school uniforms in Magnetic, seen as a direct lift from NewJeans' iconic casual cool aesthetic. The sets featuring cozy domestic spaces and group sleepovers, labeled as a carbon copy of NewJeans' relatable slice-of-life concept. Even specific choreography moments like gestures or formations were clipped and contrasted, with online communities passionately debating the line between industry trend and blatant plagiarism. The timing was devastating. A rookie group is at its most fragile in its first few months, trying to establish its own voice and connect with fans. Instead of being able to build on their debut hype, ILLIT was forced to operate under a cloud of suspicion and comparative analysis. Fans of NewJeans, known as bunnies, were rightfully protective of their group's unique identity, which Min Hee-jin had carefully crafted. Many viewed ILLIT not as innocent newcomers, but as a calculated corporate-backed threat, a clone group designed to siphon off NewJeans' success. On the other side, ILLIT's own fledgling fandom, Lights, were put in a brutal defensive position, arguing for their group's right to exist and trying to highlight subtle differences that were being drowned out by the noise. The controversy became the primary lens through which both the media and the public viewed ILLIT. News articles about their record achievements would inevitably contain a paragraph or a link about the copying controversy. The discourse was inescapable, and for many casual observers, the two groups became permanently linked in a narrative of imitation. What made this scandal particularly potent was the broader context of a massive public internal war happening at HYBE. Shortly after the accusations surfaced, HYBE launched an audit and attempted to oust Min Hee-jin from her position at ADOR, alleging she was attempting a takeover. She fired back with shocking press conferences, alleging mistreatment and again reiterating her claims about ILLIT being used to clone NewJeans. ILLIT, a group of rookies just starting out, found themselves as unwilling pawns in a very public, very messy corporate battle between industry giants. They weren't just facing criticism, they were caught in the crossfire of a power struggle that played out in stock market reports and legal filings. The pressure on these young members was unimaginable, expected to perform, smile, and promote, while the very foundation of their group's creative direction was being called into question at the highest levels of their own corporate family. The industry held its breath, waiting to see how BELIFT LAB and ILLIT would respond. The classic playbook would be to go quiet, maybe delay the next comeback, or issue a carefully worded statement. Instead, ILLIT did something that many saw as either remarkably brave or strategically stubborn. They kept going. They continued promoting Magnetic exactly as planned. They showed up on music shows with consistent, energetic performances. They didn't publicly address the controversy directly, but their actions spoke volumes. They refused to let the noise dictate their pace or derail their momentum. This decision, in retrospect, was a turning point. It signaled a resilience that would become their trademark. By not folding, they began to slowly, quietly earn a different kind of respect. Observers started to note that regardless of the origins of their concept, the execution was strong, and the members themselves were compelling performers. When October 2024 arrived just 7 months after debut, ILLIT made their next major move with the release of Cherish. This was a critical moment. The industry was watching, waiting to see if they would pivot sharply away from their debut sound to avoid further comparisons or double down on it. Cherish cleverly did neither. It evolved their sound, adding more sophisticated production and detailed choreography while retaining the easy, melodic charm that made Magnetic connect. It was a statement of incremental growth, not panic or rejection. Then they took a real risk by also promoting the B-side Tic Tac, a chiptune-heavy video game-inspired track that was sonically adventurous and far from the NewJeans lane. Music outlet NME pointed out its boldness. This was a strategic play. It began to demonstrate range. It started to whisper that ILLIT's musical identity could be more expansive than the box they'd been placed in. Their 2025 releases continued this careful strategy of building a portfolio. Almond Chocolate showed a softer, ballad-capable side. Do the Dance highlighted fiercer performance energy. The decision to give B-sides like Lucky Girl Syndrome and later tracks full music videos signaled that BELIFT LAB was investing in ILLIT discography, not just their title tracks. This was key. While other rookies might have been trapped trying to recreate the magic of their debut single, ILLIT was actively building a library of work, proving they were more than a one-hit wonder or a copycat concept. Each comeback was a small, deliberate step away from the shadow of the initial controversy, a step towards establishing their own multifaceted identity. The tension between public perception and the group's own ambition finally crystallized in November 2025 with the announcement of Not Cute Anymore. The title itself was a manifesto. The concept photos, featuring a monochromatic office aesthetic and a pink tombstone reading "Cute is Dead," were a deliberate, stark break from the fresh and simple image that had been both their launching pad and their prison. This was ILLIT actively, confidently participating in the narrative about themselves. They weren't just evolving, they were declaring an end to an era. The song itself, with its reggae-light rhythm and chic confidence, felt like the culmination of their 2-year journey. This was the moment the rookie label truly began to slip away. The controversy of April 2024 had forced them into a defensive position, but by November 2025, they were on the offensive, defining their own transformation. In the end, the ILLIT controversy matters because it highlights the brutal realities of the modern K-pop ecosystem. It shows how a group's narrative can be hijacked by corporate conflicts, fan wars, and viral comparison videos before they even have a chance to speak for themselves. ILLIT's journey from accused copycats to architects of their own not cute era is a case study in resilient brand building under extreme pressure. They didn't have the luxury of a clean, controversy-free rise. Instead, they were forged in it, and their story is ultimately not about the scandal that tried to define them, but about their relentless, quiet determination to outgrow it. They dared the industry and the public to see them as more, and in doing so, they proved that the most shocking thing a K-pop group can do isn't to be embroiled in scandal, but to successfully, gracefully, and confidently rise above it.